chapter 3. Verses 1 through 10. Book of Exodus, chapter 3, verses 1 through 10. You will find these words that are written. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire. The bush is the church. And the church ought to always be on fire. Somebody didn't get it yet. If God is inside of you, you ought to always be on fire. Notice that the bush, watch this, and behold, the bush burned with fire, but yet the bush was never consumed. Nothing ought to be able to put your fire out. Nothing. I don't care how mad you get. I don't care how disappointed you get. You're the church, and you ought to always be on fire. Moses said, I'll now turn to the side and see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. People ought to always want to see you. When they see your fire is not put out, it ought to always attract attention. I'm talking about when you walk into work, you ought to at least attract some kind of attention. When you are where you are, somebody ought to be able to look and say there's something distinctively different about you. You won't get it after a while. See, you'll get it after a while. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. Now watch this. He said, watch this. Notice that in parentheses, he said, here. I'll tell you what that means in a minute. And he said, draw nigh here. He said, put your shoes off from your feet. He said, for the place when you walk into God's presence, when you walk into God's place, when you come in here, it would do you well to know that you are in the presence of the Lord. He said, take your shoes off. He said, show me some respect. It's a shame how folk come into God's house with a dirty heart, stuff still on it. At least you ought to release it before you get here. Watch this. Watch. He said, take that. He said, draw nigh. He said, don't come to me with anything. Respect me. He said, for the place that you standeth on is holy. Moreover, he said, first of all, let me tell you, I'm God. He says, I'm God, your father. He said, I'm the father of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob. The same God that your grandmother had. The same God that your grandfather depended on. The same God that your ancestor depended on. The same God that your mama said will make a way out of nowhere. He said, I'm the God that brought you through. He said, if I brought your mama through, sure. Mother didn't make any money. Mother worked in the cleaners. Mother worked and cleaned somebody else's house. But you never went without a meal. You never went without clothes. You never, are y'all with me? In fact, some of y'all were the best dressed at your school. And the Lord said, I have surely seen, he says, I'm going to hide my face. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. He said, and the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which I need to talk to you today, because you need to know God is not absent. He hears and he sees. Somebody's going through it and asking, where is God? God said, I've seen the afflictions of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry. By reason of their taskmasters have I known their sorrow, and I'm coming down to deliver them. Touch your neighbor and say, God will deliver you out of the Egyptians, to bring them out of the land and into a good land, a large land, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites. Them folks just sitting on what you got, but it don't belong to them. I wish I had 3 believers. Somebody just reside in the place that you ought to walk by and ride by and blow the horn right there at your house, where you just blow the horn and say, thank you. You're just taking care. Take good care of it, because I'll be there. And just I'll talk to you again today about, I know you're tired of it, but God wants me to preach it to you from common to uncommon. Grass will wither, the flower it will fade, but the word of our God will stand forever. From common to uncommon, part 3. Let me bring it to the text. Moses, in this particular text, is the deliverer. Moses is the tool in which God chooses and uses to lead his people out.